Fantastic. With that, a very warm welcome to the first session of the Spencer 2023 webinar series. What is the Spencer Educational Foundation? We are a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to supporting students who wish to pursue careers within this industry, risk management, insurance, and actuarial science. And we do so through various programs, including our scholarships program, which we'll talk about in a second, internship grants, general grants to universities and other nonprofit organizations, course development programs at universities, and other experiential learning opportunities. So we do have some wonderful guest speakers that are here with us today from Aon. Our main speaker is going to be Stephen Flowers, who's an associate broker. So Stephen, if you would, please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Well, good afternoon to some. It's my pleasure to meet you all. My name is Stephen Flowers, as Tendek has gracefully introduced. I am an associate broker over at Aon, which is a financial brokerage firm for anyone who's maybe not familiar, meaning that when things happen in the world, there's people who do the numbers and who help businesses stay afloat, and Aon happens to be really good at that. So that's what we're really known for. You may know us if you see us on some of the promotional things that we do, like the PGA Tour. We also used to be on the jersey of Manchester United before Chevy. So for soccer fans out there, that's how we kind of get our name out there. I've been with the firm for about 3 years. I interned back in 2019, and then I joined the firm officially in 2020, virtually at first, but now hybrid. So in person and also working from home, as you can see. And so I am here today just to talk to you all a little bit about a little bit of my journey and how I got to Aon, and some of the things I've learned and attributed to the space and some of the programs and initiatives I'm a part of. And then I'll pass it over to Tendeka.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. And he's based in New York. If you didn't mention that or folks didn't catch that, Stephen is based in New York City. We also have a Spencer Scholar Spotlight that we are doing. With us today is Alexis Mast, formerly known as Alexis Hanchet. She just recently got married, so congratulations. So she's also an associate broker. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, Alexis.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Tandeka, for the welcome. It's so nice to see faces that aren't my normal colleagues. It's nice to see some new faces every once in a while. I'm a 2022 grad from Olivet College, so welcome everybody in Tom's class today. It's nice to see everybody. I've been with Aon for about 7 months now. I sit in Michigan with our Grand Rapids office, which is completely virtual right now. And I work with our St. Louis office, which is hybrid. So I'm actually going down next week and going to spend the week in St. Louis. So super excited to do some networking down there and see everybody again. Just a little shout out to OC. It's really exciting to be back and to see everybody. And I'm excited to talk about, the next steps. Thanks, Tandeka.
Awesome. Thank you, Alexis. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Stephen, if you'd like to share your screen. We have a presentation that we'll go through. But as I mentioned, if anyone has questions along the way, please feel free to stop us. You can either say something verbally, use the features within Zoom, or raise your hand, but we would love to answer your questions as they come up. So over to you, Stephen.
Thank you. So again, greetings. For anyone who does have questions, please do utilize the chat feature, or just, I think they have the raise your hand function here.
Yes.
So also utilize that, and I can pause and answer questions when I can. So just a little bit about what I do at Aon. I work in a construction and infrastructure firm. So pretty much that side of our business handles general contractors, so people who build skyscrapers or big municipalities and bridges and civil construction. So that's a lot of our clients, and then down to small mom and pop shops who do elevators, glass windows, and businesses like that. So typically those would be my clients. And then my job really is to communicate my clients' needs to people who work in different insurance firms who could provide comprehensive packages. So that means protecting everyone who works in the firm, from people who work in the desk to people who are outside cleaning glasses or building construction. And for all of that, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of city mandates, a lot of, I I want to say, demanding aspects to the job. So I meet a lot of people in my firm, a lot of people who handle construction or specialize in construction, but it can be a bit limited just from only seeing people in your team and not getting to branch out. And for someone like me who's pretty social and outgoing, I needed something like that. And so when I got into the corporate workspace, I said, hey, I wanted to make sure that I have this opportunity to meet other people. And how can I do that? Especially being young in my career, not really having that technical or that experience background to propel me to a lot of those spaces where I can meet more people. And so I looked at opportunities. And one of those opportunities that I was able to find was something called Employee Resource Group. But at Aon, we call them business resource groups. So you'll find out there's a bunch of different names that you hear at different firms. People will label them differently and they have different functions. But generally, they're for colleagues to connect. And so for me, that's what I was searching for. So that's what I'm going to speak to you all a little bit about today.
Fantastic. Thank you for that intro. I'm looking forward to it. I did also see Latoria Hamilton pop in. Latoria, are you at a space where you could say hello?
Yes, hello everyone. It's very nice to be here. I am with the University of Akron. I am a professor and the director of the Risk Management Insurance Program.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us here today. We host these sessions on a monthly basis, so hoping you'll be able to join us again in future and invite more of your students.
Certainly. Thank you.
Awesome. Stephen, back to you.
Great. And so when we talk about business resource groups, we're talking about a resource for employees that helps to not only just educate based on cultural differences or historical differences or differences that just come about from people being from different places. It's a resource group that helps to enlighten and impact on how some of those cultural differences can aid us in the business workforce. There's a lot of things that, given the nuance of the world, you want a specialist, you want an expert, you want someone who comes from that cloth, who knows a little bit and who can expand on that. So if you have a team that's coming from Spain, it's a bit hard to entertain them or communicate with them if you don't know anything about Spanish culture. But when you have something like a business resource group, you can reach out to different advocacy groups within the company and learn more so that you're better prepared to satisfy client needs. And so that's really the corporate spiel that we give in terms of business resource groups. And for new colleagues or people who just joined the firm, we tell them this is a place where we can make sure you're connected, that you don't join the firm and you don't feel alone, that maybe you don't know too many people, but you can join something. And then besides your main desk, you now have 20 to 40 people who know your name, know of you, and are looking out for you to help you along your career path. So I'm going to go through a list of some of our business resource groups, but before that, I'll give some of the notes that our leadership has given in regards to our business resource groups. So Greg Case, our CEO, once said, "We pride ourselves on fostering an inclusive work environment where opportunity and success are defined by one's character and capability. We share a conviction that cultivating an inclusive culture where diverse views and experiences are welcome and where everyone has opportunities to grow is directly related to our ability to win in the market." So when you have something like that coming from your CEO, from the top down to the bottom, it really does spread just the culture that meeting people where they're at, learning more about them can also help in terms of when it comes to talking business. And you'll learn a lot about this industry. A lot of the business is not done in the office. It's a lot of these conversations where we're meeting for dinner or we're meeting for lunch or a coffee, where we're catching up maybe on outside of life that we maybe talk and build more of that relationship. And those relationships drive so much of this business and this industry that it's always being repeated to you. It's being repeated from your managers to your colleagues to directors of teams. And so when you think about being new hire or maybe someone who's coming from a different path, maybe you change industries. Maybe you were in a certain industry and insurance or risk presented itself to you. And so now you're joining. You may be feeling behind. And so you have these models of how we onboard our employees, but the best way to do it is to just have peers and peers who are always going to be looking out for you. And so in doing so, I can say for myself, I'll start with just how I joined these BRGs is that I honestly just asked. I asked around. I said, hey, where can I find people who are working on improving Aon? The culture, the business, and people kept pointing me to BRGs. They said, if you have a will to change or to improve the environment that you're in, or to just be your authentic self, these are the places and the spaces for that. So let's go through some of them. AAPI is now API. They actually just went through a rebranding for the new year. Is our group for our Asian colleagues or of anyone who's from the Asian diaspora. We not only welcome allies, but they also welcome any colleagues who just is intrigued, wants to know more, or wants to love interactions with the culture. And they do some events that we invite not only our colleagues here at Aon, but colleagues over at other companies like AIG or Chubb. Not always our competitors, but we do keep an open door. It's always friendly. Some of the events that we even collaborated with them on is our cooking. We do a lot of cooking events with the API group. They're great for that. A lot of the colleagues are from all over the country, but sometimes they travel a lot. So sometimes when everyone lines up is in the city, in New York City, we'll all get together. And Amit sits on my floor, so I'm familiar with him and get to interact with him often. He's the leader for our group. Then you have the Pride BRG. That's led by some fantastic colleagues. They do a lot of great events. Typically, they're often busy in the summertime during Pride Month, but throughout the year, we've collaborated with them to do certain events. I keep saying we collaborated. My group is coming up later on in the presentation, so I'll talk more about them. But doing work with the Pride group is great just because they also do some give back events. One of the events that I was grateful enough to go to was we went back to the AIDS Center in New York City, and we provided some research services. So helping people with their resume, talking them through some career work and planning things like that. So it's really great work that they do throughout the year. And it's kind of sad that COVID hindered a lot of that, a lot of the in-person events that this group did. But we're looking forward to next year and them kind of bringing that back. And then we have LEAD, which is our Latinos Embracing Aon Diversity. This is our group for a lot of our Latino or Hispanic colleagues. And typically with this group, they do a lot of programming that revolves around the language barriers that a lot of our colleagues seek. So think about dealing with a company that's based in Mexico and a team that has no one who speaks Spanish. It can be very difficult to navigate that business, but that's also why it's great to advocate for people having more bilingual colleagues and people who have those skill sets in being present. The group that I'm part of, the Black Professional Network, and also how I got familiar with the Spencer Foundation myself. We do a lot of events where we interact with other similar like-minded groups in other industries and for other firms. And so by doing so, we were able to collaborate with Liberty Mutual, and do a presentation on the state of the industry in regards to diversity and inclusion. So great events that we typically like to collaborate on and just kind of promote colleagues of similar nature who maybe aren't getting that limelight shined on them. So I felt like this was a great way for me to be part of my firm. And I have no regrets in doing so, enjoying so. And I've just came upon my 2-year anniversary, I believe, of joining the Black Professional Network. I'm very happy about that. And then we have WIN, our Women's International Network, one of our more highly touted groups. They're in pretty much, I think, every office, which makes sense. And so they just came off a wonderful gala that they threw, inviting female leadership throughout numerous of our clients, but also other industry partners. And it was held in the city. And that was great just because of the charity donations they were able to generate as well and give out to certain groups.
I just love that it's called WIN. Love that.
And then last but not least is our Toastmasters group. You might know it, you might be familiar with this group. They're beyond Aon, but we have a really great chapter in our office. When I was an intern, I was able to partake in this a lot. where it's a group that just meets weekly to just kind of build on public speaking skill sets, and then also help people who maybe are working on through some things like speaking up in meetings or being better as a communicator. So Toastmasters is a great group, and it's corporately funded. So it's great that we always have it and that we don't have to worry about it kind of going away because Aon is backing it.
I love this one as well. Toastmasters is such an important tool, as you mentioned, to help harness and develop public speaking skills. So I love that it's corporately funded and this resource is available, to all Aon employees. I'm curious to know for the students that are here with us today, had you previously heard about ERGs and BRGs before, Employee Resource Group, Business Resource Group, or is this the very first time? Raise your hand if this is like your very first time hearing about ERGs and BRGs within companies. Oh, Rebecca. Okay, fantastic. So great learning opportunity. And I see Lori has joined us as well. Lori Huertas, are you in a space where you could say hello and maybe tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 2023. It's going to be all of our year.
That's right.
I'm feeling pretty positive. So my name is Lori. I am a program coordinator at Middle Tennessee State University with the Risk Management and Insurance Program. And so we're staying pretty busy getting ready to take our Gamma Iota Sigma students to the regional conference in Texas. As far as the wholesale WSIA conference in Chicago, we have scholarship. So if you know of any students, I have a couple scholarships left for fall for students that basically you get your bachelor's in business and your major is risk management and insurance. We have some students going to Vegas to look at risk management from that perspective over spring break, but I'm also a doctorate student. So I'm finishing my doctorate, taking my last classes this summer. So I'm pretty excited. And I'm an Army mom. So I'm grateful to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you for that introduction. And thank you for being here and representing your university, MTSU. Awesome. So Stephen, back to you. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Welcome the people as they come in. But for BRGs, really, they're just a great way to kind of get your feet wet if you're new to an environment, new to the industry. For me, I majored in theater, so I was not prepped. I did not do risk management or have any of the related skill set when you think of technically insurance, but meeting people, talking to people when it comes to market management, engagement, a lot of that skill set I did have. So that's why I was picked and selected after the internship process. So if anyone has any questions as regards to how do you get to be more well-known in a company, BRGs and ERGs are just there. They're there. There's something to be utilized. And once they give you a lot of face time with a lot of people who you may not have that option otherwise.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. So I do want to pause for a moment to see if there are any questions from the audience so far. Okay, so with that, we will pivot over to Alexis. And if you guys have any questions, again, feel free to raise your hands, utilize the chat box or the features. We'd be happy to answer whatever questions you may have. So Alexis, for anyone that may have missed it, since we had a couple of people trickle in since the beginning of the session, would you just give us a brief background about yourself and perhaps tell us where you went to school and what did you study when you were in college?
Yeah, so I went to school at Olivet College. I studied insurance and risk management and minored in claims handling. So it was interesting to have the background of educational insurance and then going in and actually practicing it. Because sometimes you'd get those definitions and it's stuck and ingrained in your head on what is what. And then you go see it in the real world and it doesn't quite match that definition because acting upon it is way different than just explaining it in front of everybody. let's see, I've been with Aon for 7 months. I'm an associate broker for property and casualty. So work comp, property, let's see, there's a bunch of other things that I'm blanking on right now.
Yeah.
It's been really interesting to see like bigger accounts and work with larger clients, and then also like the smaller mom and pop shops. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. So what was that transition like for you? So as you were transitioning from being a college student to being a full-time working young professional, what was your experience like?
I would say that I wouldn't describe myself as like a traditional college student. I worked all through college on campus, as well as having internships every summer, and then those internships turning into part-time internships during the school year. I kept myself very busy. So that transition into the 40 hours a week was pretty smooth for me. I would say that if you have opportunities or companies are willing to give you the opportunity to work during school, it really helps establish what time management needs to look like, which I think makes for a smoother transition when you're working those 40-hour weeks.
Absolutely. And then when you started your career with Aon, like those first few weeks or first few months, did you have like specific goals in mind? Are there any designations, for example, that you have on the radar that you need to take within a certain amount of time, or anything like that in terms of professional development?
Absolutely. So starting at Aon, I needed my PNC license, which Tom Humphreys, my advisor, would tell you that I should have done when I was in college. I didn't listen. Definitely took advantage of that. My first 2 months at Aon was studying for those 40 hours a week, studying for a test so that I could take it successfully on my first time. So Tom, saying true, definitely take advantage of anything that pops up. I didn't plan on being a broker or needing a license, and then I took a job that required it. So make sure that when those opportunities are there and you're already studying, study an extra bit harder and work on getting those things under your belt so that when you start, you can get right into the work instead of going back to school for 2 months and studying again.
Right, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about how you got the job at Aon. So for any students that might be in the audience trying to figure out like exactly how you got to where you are today and how they can bridge that gap. Or, you know, we could take a step back a little bit and talk about internships first. If you completed any internships while you were in college, how exactly did you get those internships and how exactly did you get this full-time opportunity at Aon?
Absolutely. I was very involved with Gamma Iota Sigma, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. That opened the door a lot for me. I would try to go to every single one of the events, make sure that I was introducing myself to all of the employees that are coming in so that, you know, over the years, you start seeing the same faces and they recognize you, you recognize them, you build those relationships early on. I think that was a huge part of my success when applying for internships early on. I did 5 internships over the course of my 4 years at Olivet. And that was huge into going when I was applying for jobs, because I was able to say, look at all these things that I've done. And I did different parts of the industry. So that made me more complex, which was, it gave me a lot more to talk about during interviews and understanding the lingo. So if you have the opportunity to get that internship freshman year, even if you're only required to have one, put yourself out there, really start networking now, because it will all pay off in the end. For my first job at Aon, I had the unique experience at Olivet that Aon comes in and actually hosts a project and runs like a classroom. So we did a mock broker relationship, like a submission. Let's start slow down there.
Yeah.
So we did a mock-up of a submission. We had Aon employees coming in. So I made sure that I was really, you know, taking the time to introduce myself, meet them. And then when it came down to presenting that project, that I actually really took it seriously, because I knew that having an employee that remembers you, being able to go and talk to the interviewer and say, yeah, she's great, she did great, she worked hard, that can go such a long way too. So when you have those opportunities, when people are in the classroom and they can see what you can do with your work, take advantage of it.
Fantastic. Any questions so far? I want to make sure I pause and allow time for questions. Nope, not yet. I see Lori nodding your head a lot. Did you have any questions or comments, Lori?
No, I was just agreeing with everything that she was saying. So you're very wise.
True, very true. How about you, Miss Rebecca? So your camera just came back on.
Yeah, so I want to ask a question. So for someone, you stated that you did like a lot of internships during your college, when you were in college. So for someone who probably does not have like so much experience, particularly with regards to internship, what do you think the person should do? Or what do you think is an upper hand for the person in terms of like getting an internship or even a full-time position?
Absolutely.
Great question. Yeah.
I think that if you aren't having those experiences early on and you are kind of coming in blank, it's important to really do your research going into those interviews, looking up social media accounts, seeing what's happening at the current time in that company so that you can talk about what you're seeing and how you fit into that relationship. I also thought I found that it was really important to go and do a deep dive on who's actually interviewing you. Looking at LinkedIn profiles, any social media that pops up, anything where you can make that connection early on, I feel makes the interview process run a lot smoother and you have more to talk about, especially when you get asked a question and they might be asking for an example of something. And if you haven't had an internship or that experience in the past, it's easier to move forward in that question if you kind of know what they're looking for, if that makes sense. One more thing, I just thought of this. When you are going to that internship, you're probably applying for a specific role. I know a lot of times they do like launch programs now where it's more of a broad thing. But if you are going into a specific role, do a deep dive on what that role is just on Google, like see what that is, but then also go in and really look into the description of that company, because a lot of the times the specific roles within the company are more dialed into what they're looking for. So you'll have a lot more to ask questions about yourself and for them to, talk about how you fit into that role.
Okay.
I would jump in here that look out for insight days. A lot of companies and firms just do insight days. If you just type in the firm you're looking for and insight day in LinkedIn, you may be able to find out when those calls typically happen. And for anyone who's not familiar, insight days are typically when firms open up their doors to prospective, I want to say students sometimes or professionals. So maybe people changing industry as well, to maybe even do a virtual call or come into the office, and then you'll have a presentation kind of giving you a lot about the onboarding process, what it's like to apply, what can your first 6 months at Aon even look like, and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Nice. And I think Lori go ahead.
Yeah,
Lori.
I just wanted to add really quick, Rebecca, that lately we used to at MTSU encourage our juniors and seniors to specifically apply for internships, but lately we've been encouraging our freshmen and sophomore, and they have that question that you had. They're like, wait a second, I don't really have experience. Like, can I really apply for a paid internships? And the answer is yes. And what we do is we work with the students in the coursework that you've already taken and the classes that you're already a part of, or if you're part of Gamma Iota Sigma, like someone mentioned, those are things that you can put on your resume that even though you may think you don't have experience, they're entry-level positions that a lot of these internships will love to have you. And our industry is big on diversity. So mentioning in the objective that you're passionate about diversity can open up the door. I recently had 2 sophomores that haven't worked at all. I think one of them worked at like McDonald's or something, but they hadn't worked in the industry, get internships because they were able to update their resume with those qualities. Because in your syllabus or the coursework that you take in college, in the objectives, there should be stuff relevant to the industry. So just want to encourage you to don't think that because you don't have experience, people won't hire you, because the contrary. I know that if I have an opportunity to hire someone like you, I will do it because you're eager to learn.
Okay, thank you.
Fantastic. Loving this discussion. I'll throw my 2 cents in as well. So I've worked with students that did not have internship experience before, but they had part-time jobs, so as Lori mentioned, McDonald's, for example. So they find themselves in a situation, final year of college, they're now looking for those full-time opportunities within the industry, but they have the same sort of concerns like, hey, I haven't done any internships, all I have is this part-time job, right, at McDonald's. So for anyone that happens to be in that situation, you can still tweak your resume to make it applicable to this industry, right? So regardless of what the job was, there's a skill set that you have learned from that job, right? So if you were working at McDonald's, for example, you have built your skill set in customer service, time management, working under pressure, right? Working in difficult circumstances. You've built the skill set, right? That is absolutely transferable and applicable to this industry, risk management, insurance, actuarial science. So it's really just about how you phrase it on your resume. So instead of saying worked at McDonald's, flipped burgers, right? Like expand upon the skill set. I worked at McDonald's and I served 100 customers per day, right? 3 days a week. Add some numbers, statistics, ratios, or if you were a shift manager, for example, I started out working in the kitchen, and then I was promoted to assistant manager, and then now I'm shift supervisor, and I supervise, a team of 10 people twice a week, or, things like that. Like there are ways that you can translate your experience to make it applicable to this industry by focusing on the core skill set. So that's worst case scenario, right? That's like if you absolutely cannot find an internship within this industry. But if you're in a situation where you are still out there looking for internships, of course, apply online. There's an organization called Rise Professionals. I'll put the link in the chat, but they release a list of the top 50 internship programs within this industry on a national basis. So I'll put that link in there for anyone who's still looking, or if you're not quite sure where to start. Rise Professionals has a list of 50 internships that you could go check out. And then there's other Google searches as well, right? Like just top brokerages in USA, right? Which Aon is right up there in that list. Top insurance companies within this industry, or Google risk management and insurance internships. At Spencer, we have an internship grant program, which we are in process of awarding, and happy to say that 37 companies were awarded this year. So that's 37 risk management specific internships that were created. And so definitely connect with me on LinkedIn as I'm posting a lot of those opportunities. So if you are in a situation where you're still looking, just network, basically network, connect, get yourself out there, because the job opportunities are available. So hopefully this helps. But fantastic question, Rebecca. Thank you. Any other questions out there that we could talk about or discuss? Anything on your minds? I'm looking at you, Miss Evelyn.
I had a question. Figuring out like what specifically you wanted to pursue out of all the internships, was that difficult finding like a focus point into what you wanted to do? Because there's so many different aspects in risk management and insurance that you can go to, whether that be a CRO or just working underwriting perspective. So what made you specifically want to work for Aon and broker?
Yeah. So first, I just want to start off by saying, getting an internship your freshman year, I didn't really have a focus of what I wanted to do. I wanted an internship. That was my goal, an internship in insurance. So, and with being a freshman, obviously that was harder because some places just, and we're focused on juniors and seniors, and I understand that. So that took some time. But once I got past my freshman and sophomore year, that's when I really started to dig down on what I really wanted to do. So let's see, my junior year, I was interested in the wholesale space and I wanted to see what that looked like. So I applied for the WSIA scholarship or internship and was fortunate enough to have that experience and do that internship. And I think that's what locked in for me, that I didn't want to necessarily do underwriting and I was more interested in the broker side. So for your question, I think that going out and having those experiences helped me narrow down what I was most interested in. My senior year, during the school year, I did an underwriting internship just to solidify that may not have been the opportunity for me. And after doing it, I really decided that I was interested more in brokerage, and that's what I wanted to, do in my career, at least right off the bat. And after having that class my senior year with Aon, that really solidified that I was interested in the broker side and not in the wholesale space, in the retail side, to see what that was like for me. I guess the answer to your question is go out there and have experiences, or go do research and to see what fits your personality and your traits. I love talking. I love being with people. I love doing stuff like this. So sitting at my desk as an underwriter wasn't necessarily exciting for me. So yeah, go put yourself out there, have those experiences, do some research on yourself, dig deep into what you want for your everyday life. You're spending 40 hours a week at this job. Make sure that you aren't hating your life for 40 hours a week. You want to enjoy your job. You want to enjoy the people you're working with, and you want your personality to fit that.
I love that. How about you, Stephen? What are your thoughts on this question?
I would say that internships are meant to be experiences. So always embrace that. That's the point that I always try to tell. I help run our internship group in the greater New York area. So when we get 40, 60 odd interns, some who I probably won't see besides the first day because they'll go to Connecticut or New Jersey. I tell them that this is your experience. This is your summer. The most important thing should be you, what you're getting from it, who you're talking to, what you're learning. And that's really what you should always have in mind when you have an internship. It should never be about anything but being immersed into it as much as you can. You want to know what it's like for working with managers that have a style that really works for you, or having a style that doesn't work for you at all. And having those experiences in those internships are great because when I've talked to people who've had experiences where they work to the bone, they tell me that that was the greatest experience ever, or I don't like that at all. I never want to do that again. And having kind of that answer for yourself at the end of it is what you're searching for. Because having that answer gives you that impetus when you go into your next interview for a full-time position to advocate for yourself as an employee so that people kind of know what they're getting from you. So you can walk into an interview after 2 internships or 1 internship, having had who knows what kind of experience. And in that interview process, you'll be able to say, hey, I would love to know what my manager's like. Is it going to be one person that I will probably be taking my directives from, or will it be multiple people? Because maybe you learn in your last internship that having 3 people manage you isn't for the best, or you learn that one person managing you isn't enough. You need a team. And so when you kind of have that opportunity to speak for yourself, it allows you to find positions and jobs and even be pushed into opportunities that you don't know about. So because you speak on something or you let on to some aspect that professionally is your preference, that can tell someone, hey, maybe you shouldn't be actually applying to this position. There's actually this other position that you're more suited for and fits all those requirements that you just let on. So you may not even get the job that you went in looking for, but you get something that's even better. So that's what I say when you go to these different internships, always look for that.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I think it's important to know also that your goals might change, right, throughout your experience in college. So you might start off as a freshman thinking, oh, I absolutely want to be a risk manager, that's only what I'm going to do. And by the time you get to your senior year, you might feel differently, right? It could be through internship experiences or not. It could be through your educational experiences or networking or perhaps volunteering with other groups that it may change, and that's totally okay. I certainly had that experience, when I was a college student. I went to Georgia State University in downtown Atlanta, and I was so sure that I was going to be an actuary, right? And so I'm sitting in the classes and, I'm hearing about all these other, career paths, and it's going in one ear and coming out the other, because I was like, I'm going to be an actuary. Like, I know what I want to do with my career. And everyone kept telling me, it was so funny. Everyone kept telling me, oh, have you looked into brokerage? You should be a broker. You have the right personality for that. And I was like, no. I'm going to be an actuary. And then, at the end of it all, I started my career at a brokerage at Marsh and absolutely had a great experience. I knew that it was a good fit for my personality. So just know that it's okay. It's okay to change your mind as you grow and you progress, throughout your college career and beyond that as well. Once you graduate and you start working within this industry, you'll see that several people still hop around, right? Like after they have graduated, because they're still trying to find their place. They're still trying to find that sweet spot within the industry where they're, absolutely comfortable and can share their skill set and their expertise. And so I see it all the time. People hop around, they start off on the underwriting side and then, work at a brokerage for a couple of years and then become a risk manager of a company. So just know that that is okay and that there are several career paths and options within this industry for you. Great question. Any other comments or questions on this point? And Professor Humphreys, definitely let us know if anyone from the classroom has questions as well. We'd love to answer them.
Yes, so I have a question. So a follow-up on the question I asked earlier. So she stated that she had done, Alexis stated that she had done like a number of internships, and based off on that, she was able to decide on what particular thing she wanted to focus on, right? So if, let's say you haven't really explored, so maybe you just had maybe one internship, you most probably just go into that because that is where you have had the experience. But maybe if you had the opportunity to do other things, you would have been able to, oh, maybe I think I like this better, or I think I like this better. I'm talking in terms of like, I am an actuarial science student and we have the SOA path or the casualty path.
Yep.
And for somebody who has not had so much experience, I can't just, decide that, oh, I want to write the SOA papers or I want to take the CAS papers. So should I keep exploring, maybe doing a few more internships for me to decide that, oh, I think I like this better or I think I like that better?
Fantastic question. Alexis, Stephen, what are your comments?
Yeah, I think that I'm a huge proponent for internships or just any experiences. And I think what would help you most, if it's two paths that you're most focused on, I think it's really important to start networking with people. If you can't necessarily get an internship or you don't have time to get an internship, I'm not sure where you are in your school, but just reaching out to people and talking to them about their day, like what they do every day, how their personality interacts with the job that they're doing. I think for you, that would be most beneficial because you can see yourself in other people. Like every day, we're talking to everybody on here, and I'm sure you can see personalities of yourself in other people and they're speaking. And I think the more you network and you're talking to people, that's going to help you make that decision on which path might be the better fit for you. And like Tandeka said, you get this job right after school and it's your senior year, you think you're locked down for life. That's not realistic. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, talk to your manager, make those changes if you can. And you have to do what's best for yourself. Like Tandeka said, people move around and that's totally okay. But it would be nice to, start your career off with something that you think fits your personality best.
That
Fantastic advice.
I second everything I heard. I would only say that insurance really is an industry that isn't as stringent as some other ones. So it's very easy to move around within 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And I'm speaking from hearing these same years being spoken to me when someone says, hey, I just changed groups or I started something else. And it's a very commonplace thing. You will not feel shame about it. No one will look at you differently. It's widely accepted and promoted.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Fantastic question. Any other questions out there? Or comments, additional comments from Stephen or Alexis? Do you have any advice or final comments as we're wrapping up this session for the college students that are here with us today?
Go ahead, Stephen.
I will say for anyone who's finishing up school and you're looking at some of these firms really are looking for the young people. They're very excited about the recruiting efforts. So if you're still skeptical about who wants you, where you should go, where should your first step be, reach out to people, set up calls, set up coffee chats. I know that exams are coming up and things like that, but if you can find a free weekend or a free Friday to set up 12 calls, do it. Talk to as many people as you can, hear from as many people as you can, and wherever it feels right, try it. You know, this is just the start of your career. It's not the end, it's not the middle, it's just the start.
I love that. Fantastic advice.
Totally agree with what Stephen said. I just want to add that in my opinion, it's getting really competitive. My freshman year when I started, I felt like there wasn't as many insurance students, and while it was competitive, it's definitely gotten more competitive over the years. So my biggest piece of advice is do things that are going to make you stand out on your resume. Put yourself out there, network, talk to people. I've definitely had times where I've went somewhere and I'm about to walk into this event and I sit in my car and I'm like, what am I doing? I can't do this. And then I finally gained the courage to get out of my car and go do that experience. And I always leave and I'm always happy with how the outcome of that was. Don't be scared to say yes to experiences. Put yourself out there. You might stand in the corner for a second, feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it's always worth it in the long run. So that's just my biggest piece of advice, is put yourself out there and do things that other people may not have the guts to do.
I love that. That's great advice. And Ken, did you want to share as well? I saw you put a little bit about your background and different sectors in the industry. Did you want to unmute and just share a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. So I think the key is to find the path that works for you. I started after law school out on the claims side of the house, handling different types of professional liability losses, and was able to take that skill set and translate it over to the business side and manage P&L. But the right path for you is the one that works for you. Try different things to the earlier points that you heard, and you'll navigate in the way that you want to and have success with. Thanks, Tendeka.
Absolutely. Yeah. And look at us now. We work for a nonprofit organization, right? That is still focused within this industry. So, you know, when I say there's several career paths, I mean it, right? It's not just the traditional risk management, you know, brokerage, claims, underwriting. Like there's several out of the box other career paths that are still within this industry, including a whole nonprofit sector, where I've been fortunate enough to, you know, work on the corporate side. And then I had nonprofit experience, and then I worked for a staffing recruiting firm, and now I'm back on the nonprofit side. And everything that I have learned, I've been able to transfer and take with me. So it's not like you're starting from scratch, right? Each time you're actually building upon the knowledge and experiences that you had in your previous roles. I did see in the chat also, I'm scrolling up, so Matthew just gave us a little plug there in the chat box. He said that definitely take tests and exams during college. The Institute is currently having a 25% off deal that ends in 2 days. So for anyone that is in that study mode, take advantage of that 25% off for exam materials. Any other questions or comments before we pivot? In the last few minutes, I did want to touch on our scholarship process, but any other questions before I pivot to scholarships? No? Okay, so I am going to share my screen over here. So just for the last few minutes of this session, and this really is for the benefit of any college students that might be here with us today. So if you just go to our website, www.spencer.org, go over to programs, go down to scholarships. This is where you'll be able to access our application form. We offer scholarships at all levels. So that's undergrad, master's, part-time master's, and PhD. This is how you apply. So right over here, if you happen to be, you know, undergraduate, just click on this apply here button, and it's going to take you straight to our external portal. It will ask you to sign in, username and password. I've already signed in, and that's why I jumped to this page. But you'll be able to read about eligibility. As you can see here, the deadline is January 31st, and that's why I wanted to take this moment to just highlight this to you. If you have any questions as you're going through this process, please feel free to reach out either to myself or to my colleague here, Ken Goldstein, who you just met. We would be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have, but definitely want you guys to take advantage of this opportunity. If you are awarded a Spencer Scholarship, you could get up to $5,000. If it's a named scholarships, sometimes up to $7,500, which is real money. This is real money for college students, and this is something that you can apply for each year. So if you're a freshman, for example, you can apply for these scholarships every single year throughout your college career. And once you're awarded one of these scholarships, you become a Spencer Scholar, and we're able to then loop you in for additional things outside of the classroom, like speaking opportunities, free access to conferences across the country and things like that. So Alexis, as I mentioned, is a Spencer Scholar alumni. So she obtained one of these scholarships when she was in college. As you're clicking through here, you'll be able to see that it is a super simple process. It is very streamlined. These first 3 tabs is just information and FAQs. And as you go through it, you'll be able to see that we're just collecting very basic information. We do need a copy of your transcripts, but unofficial transcripts is okay. So you don't have to pay if your university happens to charge for the official transcript. You don't have to pay for that. Unofficial transcripts are totally okay. But just fill in any information. So if you happen to have any work experience, list that in there. There is an essay portion, but as you can see, it's super simple, like 500 word limit. Like, I know you guys are writing pages and pages and pages, of essays while you're in college. So this is literally just 500 words and 2 essays that you can ask. And as you can see, it's literally 1 sentence that we're asking. So super simple process. You can save it at any time or submit it. But again, the deadline is January 31st. So make sure you take a moment to do that. We want to see all of your names in the applications, and we are looking forward to reviewing them. We're looking forward to reading your essays. Any final questions before I wrap up this session? And I did pop a couple of links in the chat, so definitely take a moment to do that. Just scroll through, click on all the links. As I mentioned, connect with us through LinkedIn. Would be more than happy to send you additional information if you need it. And yeah, that is pretty much it. So thank you to Stephen. Thank you to Alexis for being here today and hanging out with us for an hour. As I mentioned earlier, we do these sessions every month during the spring and fall semester. So our next session is going to be Thursday, February 9th. So it's the second Thursday of every month at 1 p.m. And our presenting company is going to be Sampo International. So catch you all next month. Have a great afternoon. Bye.